In a world where justice is supposed to prevail, what happens when the system fails? Imagine being sentenced to life for a crime you didn't commit. This is the unforgettable fight of an innocent man striving to reclaim his life amidst a web of deceit. In the summer of 1995, a small town was shaken by a brutal crime. A local shopkeeper was found dead, leaving the community in shock and fear. Police quickly turned their attention to a suspect with a troubled past. That suspect was Michael, a young man with no violent history. Yet the police were convinced of his guilt. The evidence against him seemed substantial, but was it truly reliable? Witness testimonies played a crucial role in Michael's conviction. However, those same testimonies would later unravel under scrutiny. How could so many people be wrong? As the trial began, the prosecution painted a damning picture of Michael. Despite a lack of concrete evidence, the jury was swayed by emotional pleas. It was a battle of perception versus reality. Michael maintained his innocence throughout the trial. He knew he was being framed, but could he convince the jury of his truth? The pressure mounted as the verdict approached. The day of the verdict arrived, and the atmosphere was electric. When the jury announced their decision, shockwaves rippled through the room. Michael was found guilty. Sentenced to life in prison, Michael's world crumbled. He felt the weight of injustice crushing him. Yet deep within, a flicker of hope remained. There had to be a way to prove his innocence. Years passed, and with them, Michael never gave up. He tirelessly researched his case, uncovering inconsistencies and new evidence that could change everything. His fight for justice began anew. As Michael dug deeper, he discovered that the original investigation was riddled with errors. Witnesses had been coerced, and crucial evidence had been ignored. Would this finally lead to his exoneration? Michael reached out to advocacy groups specializing in wrongful convictions. Their support was invaluable, validating his claims and providing legal assistance that had once seemed out of reach. With renewed vigor, Michael's legal team filed for an appeal. They presented the new evidence in court, hoping for a second chance. The tension was palpable as the judge prepared to rule. After a long wait, the judge announced a retrial. Michael's heart raced with anticipation. This was the moment he had been waiting for. Could the truth finally prevail? The retrial began, and this time the defense was prepared. They highlighted the flaws in the original case and brought forth witnesses who recanted their statements. The tide was turning. As the retrial progressed, the truth unfolded. The jury was faced with the stark reality of Michael's innocence. Each new piece of evidence painted a clearer picture of what really happened. Finally, the moment arrived. The jury delivered their verdict once more, this time with a resounding not guilty. Michael's fight had not been in vain. Justice had prevailed at last. Michael walked out of prison a free man, but the scars of his wrongful conviction would remain forever. He dedicated his life to advocating for others wrongfully accused, ensuring their voices were heard. Michael's story serves as a haunting reminder of the flaws in our justice system. As we reflect on his journey, we must ask ourselves, how many others are still fighting for their truth? After his release, Michael faced an uphill battle reintegrating into society. Finding employment proved almost impossible, as many employers hesitated to hire someone with a criminal record, despite his innocence. With each rejection, his hope flickered. Yet he remained determined to carve out a new life for himself. To make ends meet, Michael took on odd jobs while volunteering at local organizations. His heart lay in helping those still trapped in the justice system. Each story he heard fueled his passion, igniting a fire to continue his fight against wrongful convictions. Recognizing how many others suffered like him, Michael began speaking publicly about his experience. He accepted every opportunity to share his story, collaborating with activists and legal experts to shine a light on the flaws in the justice system. His message resonated far and wide. As Michael's advocacy grew, he caught the attention of local media. Stories about his wrongful conviction and the fight against injustice began to surface, sparking conversations across the nation. But not everyone was pleased with the attention he was receiving. Despite the positive attention, some officials in the justice system felt threatened by Michael's revelations. They dismissed his claims, labeling him a troublemaker seeking fame. This only fueled his desire to expose the truth and advocate for reform. Soon, Michael collaborated with a nonprofit organization dedicated to fighting wrongful convictions. Together, they worked tirelessly to review old cases, seeking to uncover evidence that could exonerate the innocent, like he once was. In one particularly memorable case, Michael helped a young man named David, who had been sentenced to 20 years for a crime he did not commit. Michael saw himself in David's story and felt compelled to assist him in any way possible. Michael and his team worked tirelessly to gather new evidence. They uncovered eyewitness testimony and electronic records that contradicted the original case. With every new piece of information, they grew closer to justice for David. After months of hard work, they finally brought the new evidence before a judge. The courtroom was tense as Michael stood beside David, their futures hanging in the balance. Would justice finally prevail for another innocent victim? As the judge reviewed the evidence, a sense of anticipation filled the air. Michael felt his heart pounding, knowing that this moment could change everything for David. He reflected on his own journey and the importance of perseverance. The judge announced a recess, giving everyone a moment to breathe. Michael took this opportunity to speak with David, reassuring him that no matter the outcome, they had already made an impact by fighting back against injustice together. As the courtroom reconvened, Michael felt the weight of the moment. The judge's voice echoed through the room, declaring that the evidence was sufficient to overturn David's conviction. Cheers erupted, and tears filled Michael's eyes as justice was finally served. With David's exoneration, Michael gained newfound recognition as an advocate for the wrongfully convicted. He began to receive invitations to speak at national conferences and events, where he could share his story and insights with a broader audience. Among those he inspired was a group of law students eager to address justice reform. They reached out to Michael, hoping to learn from his experiences and bring about change through legal education and activism. Michael began mentoring these students, sharing his story and emphasizing the importance of integrity within the legal system. Together, they organized events to raise awareness about wrongful convictions and the need for reform. As years passed, Michael's work led to significant advancements in legislation aimed at preventing wrongful convictions. He collaborated with lawmakers, providing first-hand accounts of the flaws that had affected his life and countless others. Through his tireless advocacy, Michael helped establish a fund for those exonerated after wrongful convictions. This fund provided financial support for education and therapy, helping individuals rebuild their lives after trauma. But the journey was not without challenges. Michael faced backlash from those who refused to accept the injustices he highlighted. They labeled him as a disruptor, yet his resolve only strengthened. Despite opposition, Michael's network of supporters grew. More individuals came forward with their own wrongful conviction stories, eager to find solidarity and pursue justice. Michael became a beacon of hope for many. In a significant moment, Michael joined a coalition advocating for criminal justice reform. Together, they pushed for policy changes that emphasized fairness and accountability, rallying public support nationwide. As Michael continued to make strides, he reflected on the importance of community involvement. He believed that real change would come from the grassroots level, where individuals could band together to demand justice. Years later, Michael stood at a podium reflecting on his journey from wrongful conviction to advocate. His speech highlighted the importance of empathy within the justice system, urging reformers to approach every case with compassion. As he looked out at the crowd, Michael saw familiar faces of those he had helped along the way. Their presence reminded him of the lives intertwined in this fight for justice and the power of unity. With each passing year, the movement Michael inspired continued to grow. New advocates emerged, fueled by the stories of the wrongfully convicted. They stood on the shoulders of those who came before them, pushing for a brighter future. Looking back on his journey, Michael understood that while he had fought for himself, the true victory lay in the many lives touched by his work. Each exoneration represented hope and a step closer to justice. Michael's heart swelled with pride as he watched David, now a free man, take on a new role as an advocate himself. Their bond, forged in the struggle against wrongful convictions, symbolized the power of transformation. As we conclude this segment of Michael's journey, we recognize that the fight against wrongful convictions is far from over. His story, and those of countless others, serve as a reminder of the ongoing need for vigilance and reform in the justice system. How will we continue to advocate for change? Following the revelation of new evidence, Michael's case drew significant media attention, reigniting public interest. Community members rallied around him, demanding justice and transparency. They organized protests, hoping to push for a review of the case, amplifying Michael's voice in the fight for justice. As the movement gained momentum, a documentary crew reached out to Michael's family. They sought to tell his story to a broader audience, believing public exposure could influence the legal outcome. Michael's loved ones agreed, eager to shed light on the injustices he faced. During interviews, Michael's mother shared heartbreaking memories of her son's childhood, reminiscing about his dreams and aspirations. Her deep love and unwavering belief in his innocence struck a chord with viewers, helping to humanize the legal battle. Support from advocacy groups grew, and legal experts offered their assistance to examine Michael's case. They identified several critical flaws in the original trial, which had relied heavily on dubious witness testimonies. The cracks in the prosecution's case became increasingly evident. With renewed hope, a motion for a retrial was officially filed. The legal team presented compelling evidence that questioned the integrity of the original evidence. Anticipation grew as the date for the hearing approached, with Michael's life hanging in the balance. As the hearing approached, the narrative shifted to Michael's emotional state. Confined to prison, he grappled with anxiety and uncertainty about his future. Letters from supporters filled him with hope, reminding him that he was not alone in this fight. Finally, the day of the hearing arrived. Family and supporters packed the courtroom, their presence a powerful reminder of the community's unwavering support. Michael sat anxiously, aware that this moment could change everything. As the hearing commenced, the defense laid out their arguments, unveiling new evidence and witness statements. The prosecution scrambled to counter these claims, but the cracks in their case became increasingly visible, igniting hope among supporters. Witnesses began to testify, some recanting their previous statements. The courtroom was electric with tension as the truth began to surface. Michael's supporters held their breath, praying for the justice they believed was long overdue. As the hearing progressed, experts testified about the mishandling of evidence. Their insights shed light on how key pieces had been overlooked, fueling the movement's resolve for justice. Public interest surged as updates spread across social media. Late in the hearing, a pivotal moment arrived. A new witness stepped forward, claiming to have seen the real perpetrator. The courtroom erupted in gasps. This revelation turned the tide of the case and provided the defense with critical support. In response to the mounting evidence, the judge requested a recess, allowing time to consider the implications. Michael's heart raced. Had the truth finally begun to break through the walls of injustice that had imprisoned him for so long? As everyone waited, a palpable sense of hope and anxiety swirled in the air. Supporters exchanged whispers, each moment feeling like an eternity. Michael, filled with both dread and hope, prayed for the outcome he had always believed was possible. Finally, the judge returned, and the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Her words carried weight as she announced that the evidence warranted a full review of the case. Cheers erupted from the supporters, while a wave of relief washed over Michael. With the case under review, Michael's life took a new trajectory. Activists, journalists, and supporters pushed harder for transparency in the justice system. They demanded accountability for those responsible for his wrongful conviction, amplifying Michael's story nationwide. As his story spread, Michael became a symbol of the fight against wrongful convictions. Speaking engagements and interviews followed, empowering others wrongfully accused. He used his platform to advocate for systemic change and support for the wrongfully convicted. The media spotlight on Michael's case led to increased scrutiny of similar cases across the country. New reform initiatives began to take shape, aiming to prevent such injustices from happening again. His fight became part of a larger movement for change. With the continuous push for reform, the temperature of discussions around justice shifted. More people began to acknowledge the flaws in the system, advocating for comprehensive reviews and changes to ensure that others wouldn't face the same fate as Michael. As Michael's retrial drew closer, the anticipation reached a fever pitch. His family remained steadfast by his side, providing unwavering support through the ups and downs of his tumultuous journey. Their love became the foundation of his resilience. As the next chapter of Michael's story unfolds, the fight against wrongful convictions continues. This gripping battle symbolizes not only his struggle for justice, but also the collective fight for truth in a flawed system. What lies ahead remains uncertain, yet hope persists. As the legal battle continued, Michael's team faced countless setbacks, but their resolve only grew stronger. Each rejection fueled their determination to uncover the truth behind the flawed conviction. The public began to take notice, rallying behind Michael's cause, demanding answers and justice. Amid the turmoil, Michael found solace in a community of advocates who had faced similar fates. Their shared stories of resilience inspired him to remain hopeful. Together, they organized rallies, raising awareness about wrongful convictions and the urgent need for reform. With each passing day, more evidence emerged that suggested Michael's innocence. Former witnesses recanted their testimonies, admitting they had been coerced. This new information ignited a renewed sense of hope within Michael's legal team and supporters alike. As the evidence mounted, the pressure on the state grew. Michael's case garnered national attention, drawing in journalists eager to expose the injustices of the justice system. Documentaries and features began to highlight the flaws that had led to his wrongful conviction. The media coverage intensified, prompting politicians to take a stand. They began proposing legislation aimed at preventing wrongful convictions and ensuring better oversight within the judicial system. The fight for justice was becoming a movement larger than Michael alone. As the movement gained momentum, Michael's family remained his cornerstone of strength. They fought tirelessly, attending meetings, speaking out, and rallying support. Their unwavering belief in his innocence kept the fire of hope alive. Finally, after years of relentless advocacy, the day arrived for a hearing that could change everything. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as Michael's lawyer presented the compelling new evidence before the judge. Everyone held their breath. The judge listened closely, weighing the evidence against the initial conviction. Michael's heart raced as he waited for the outcome. This moment represented the culmination of years of struggle, hope, and unyielding determination. After what felt like an eternity, the judge delivered the decision. The words, "case reopened," echoed in the room, igniting emotional reactions from all present. Tears of relief and joy filled Michael's eyes as he realized he was one step closer to freedom. With the case reopened, Michael's team began the arduous task of reviewing evidence and calling for a re-examination of the facts. They faced obstacles, but the momentum was on their side. Support from organizations advocating for the wrongfully convicted brought resources and expertise. As the investigation unfolded, startling discoveries were made. Hidden records and overlooked testimonies painted a clearer picture of Michael's innocence. Each piece of evidence fortified the argument against his initial conviction, igniting hope for a final resolution. The mounting evidence caught the attention of influential figures in the criminal justice reform movement. High-profile advocates joined the fight, amplifying Michael's story. Their involvement brought further scrutiny to the case and demanded accountability from those responsible. As the trial date approached, Michael's supporters organized a large rally outside the courthouse. Signs reading "Justice for Michael" filled the streets. As the community came together to show solidarity, This was more than a rally, it was a testament to the power of hope and perseverance. On the day of the hearing, the courtroom was packed with supporters. The atmosphere was electric, charged with anticipation and hope. As Michael entered, a wave of encouragement swept through the room, reminding him he was not alone in this fight. As the hearing commenced, Michael's attorney presented the overwhelming evidence of his innocence. Witnesses spoke passionately, recounting the truth behind the lies. The defense painted a vivid picture that challenged the very foundation of the original conviction. The prosecution struggled to defend the initial conviction, and cracks began to show in their arguments. Tension filled the room as doubts emerged about the integrity of the original investigation. Michael felt a surge of hope as each point was challenged. As the days of the hearing passed, the weight of the case bore heavily on everyone involved. Emotions ran high, and Michael often reflected on his journey. He knew that whatever the outcome, he had made an impact on the fight against wrongful convictions. Finally, after days of testimony and deliberation, the moment of truth arrived. The judge announced they would take time to review the evidence before making a ruling. The wait was excruciating but necessary to ensure justice was served. As the judge deliberated, the world watched. Michael's supporters held their breath, praying for the right decision. This was a pivotal moment not just for Michael, but for many who had suffered from similar injustices in silence. Finally, the day arrived when the judge was ready to announce the ruling. The courtroom was silent, tension palpable. Michael could feel his heart racing as he braced himself for the outcome that would change his life forever. With bated breath, the judge spoke. The court finds reasonable doubt in the original conviction. A wave of emotion washed over Michael as tears streamed down his face. After years of fighting, he was finally vindicated. As the news spread, celebrations erupted outside the courthouse. Supporters hugged, cried, and cheered, a testament to their unwavering belief in Michael's innocence. This victory was a beacon of hope for others unjustly convicted. Michael left the courthouse a free man, embraced by his loved ones. The journey had been long and painful, but the resilience of his spirit shone through. He stood not only as a survivor, but as a symbol of hope for change. In the aftermath of his release, Michael became an advocate for others wrongfully convicted. He shared his story, reminding the world of the flaws within the justice system. His voice resonated, inspiring a movement that fueled change. As he traveled across the country, Michael met with other exonerees, sharing their harrowing experiences. Together, they formed a powerful coalition, united by their fight for justice and reform. Their stories became a rallying cry for a better system. Through advocacy and awareness, Michael's efforts led to the introduction of new legislation aimed at preventing wrongful convictions. His journey sparked discussions about systemic reforms within law enforcement and the judicial system. As the movement gained traction, Michael's story reached new heights. Documentaries, podcasts, and articles highlighted his journey, drawing attention to the urgent need for justice reform. He became a beacon of hope for a generation. Despite the challenges ahead, Michael remained steadfast. He knew that the fight for justice was far from over. Each victory brought new challenges, but he was prepared to face them head-on, determined to make a difference. In reflecting on his journey, Michael understood the importance of hope and resilience. His fight had not only transformed his life, but also had the power to inspire countless others. He became a champion for those who felt voiceless. Michael's story is a profound reminder of the flaws within our justice system. As we reflect on his journey, let us remember that the fight for truth and justice continues. Together, we can create a world where no innocent person suffers as he did.